Hacking isn't what you see in the movies. It's not about typing furiously on a glowing keyboard for 30 seconds to bring down a global network. Real hacking is a mindset. It's about curiosity. It's about understanding a system so deeply that you can make it do things it was never designed to do. Think of it like a complex puzzle, a lock with an unknown combination. A hacker is the person who doesn't just guess the numbers. They take the lock apart piece by piece to understand how the tumblers and pins work. They learn the language of the machine, the logic of the code, and then they start a conversation with it. The reasons people are drawn to hacking are as varied as the individuals themselves. For some, it's the ultimate intellectual challenge, a mental Everest they feel compelled to climb. For others, it's about a desire for knowledge, an insatiable need to know how things work under the hood. They see a closed system not as a barrier, but as an invitation to explore. Then there are those who see it as a way to create change, to expose weaknesses so they can be fixed, making the digital world a safer place for everyone. It's a powerful skill, and with that power comes a wide spectrum of motivations, from pure intellectual curiosity to a drive for security and improvement. People often get confused between a hacker and a criminal. The media has painted a picture of a hooded figure in a dark room, but that's a lazy stereotype. Hacking itself is a skill, a methodology. It's neutral like a hammer. You can use a hammer to build a house, to create something useful and strong for the community. Or you can use that same hammer to break a window and cause destruction. The tool itself isn't good or evil. The intent of the person holding it is what matters. The true spirit of hacking lies in the clever solution, the elegant bypass, the aha moment when the system finally bends to your will. This distinction is the most important lesson you'll ever learn on this path. We call the good guys white hat hackers. They are the security professionals, the penetration testers, the researchers who find flaws and report them so they can be fixed. They build, they protect, they strengthen. The black hat hackers are the ones who use their skills for personal gain, for crime, for chaos. They break in to steal information, cause damage, or disrupt services. Your journey into this world begins with a choice. Which hat will you wear? This choice will define every action you take and every line of code you write from this day forward. Before you can even think about running sophisticated hacking tools, you need to learn how to walk. This means building a solid foundation of basic computer knowledge. You have to understand the machine in front of you from the ground up. What is a CPU? What does RAM do? How does the operating system manage files and processes? You need to be comfortable working with different operating systems, not just the one you use every day. Get to know Windows, macOS, and especially Linux. Linux, in particular, is the hacker's playground because it's open source, transparent, and gives you an incredible amount of control over the system. Once you have a grip on individual computers, you need to understand how they talk to each other. This is where networking comes in, and it is absolutely non-negotiable. You must learn the language of the internet. What are IP addresses and MAC addresses? How does DNS resolve a domain name like google.com into a string of numbers? You need to understand the TCP/IP model, the difference between TCP and UDP, and what common ports are used for. It's like learning the grammar and vocabulary of a language. Without it, you can't hope to have a meaningful conversation with the network or understand the conversations happening around you. The next layer of your foundation is programming. You don't have to become a master software developer overnight, but you need to understand how software is built. Learning a scripting language like Python is a fantastic starting point. Python is powerful, yet relatively easy to read, and it's used for everything from automating simple tasks to developing complex hacking tools. It allows you to create your own solutions instead of relying solely on what others have built. Eventually, you might want to learn lower-level languages like C or C++ to understand memory management and how exploits really work at the machine level. Programming gives you the power to create, not just use. Finally, cultivate the most important skill of all, the ability to learn and solve problems on your own. No course or book can teach you everything. The digital world changes at a blistering pace. New technologies, new defenses, and new vulnerabilities appear every single day. You must become a master of Google, an expert at reading documentation, and relentless in your pursuit of answers. The best hackers are not the ones who know everything. They are the ones who know how to find the information they need, quickly and efficiently. This curiosity and self-reliance will be your most valuable asset, long after specific tools and techniques become obsolete. Every craft has its tools, and hacking is no different. Your journey will begin with a specialized operating system built for the job. The most famous of these is Kali Linux. Think of Kali as a digital Swiss Army knife. It comes preloaded with hundreds of tools for reconnaissance, scanning, exploitation, and forensics. Using a distribution like Kali or Parrot OS saves you from having to find and install all these tools yourself. It provides a complete, organized environment where you can learn and practice. Your first step is to get comfortable in this environment. Learn the command line. It's faster, more powerful, and gives you more control than any graphical interface ever will. One of the first tools you'll use from your arsenal is a network scanner, and the undisputed king is Nmap, the network mapper. Nmap is your eyes and ears on the network. It allows you to discover which devices are connected to a network, what services they are running, and what operating systems they use. It's like creating a map of a digital city before you decide which building to explore. Another crucial tool is Wireshark. Wireshark is a network protocol analyzer. It lets you capture and inspect the data packets traveling across a network. It's like being able to listen in on every conversation, seeing the raw data as it flows between machines. When you start looking at web applications, you'll need a different set of tools. An interception proxy is essential, and Burp Suite is the industry standard. Burp Suite sits between your web browser and the internet, allowing you to intercept, inspect, and modify all the traffic going back and forth. This gives you an incredible amount of power to test how a website responds to unexpected or malicious requests. You can manipulate data, replay requests, and probe for weaknesses in a way that's impossible with a browser alone. It's the key to unlocking the secrets of how a web application really works. Finally, you'll encounter password cracking tools like John the Ripper or Hashcat. These tools don't magically guess passwords. They work by taking password hashes, the scrambled, encrypted versions of passwords that systems store, and trying to find a match. They use techniques like dictionary attacks, trying words from a list, and brute force attacks, trying every possible combination to reverse the hashing process. This teaches you a valuable lesson about the importance of strong, complex passwords and why systems should use modern, slow hashing algorithms to protect user credentials. These tools show you the practical side of cryptography and its weaknesses. Once you have your foundational skills and your basic toolkit, the real game begins. Finding vulnerabilities. A vulnerability is a flaw or weakness in a system's design, implementation, or configuration that can be exploited by an attacker. The process of finding them is a methodical hunt, not a random guess. It starts with a phase called reconnaissance or information gathering. You want to learn everything you can about your target. What IP addresses does it use? What technologies is its website built on? Who works there? This is often the most time-consuming but most critical phase. The more you know, the larger your attack surface becomes. After gathering information, you move on to scanning and enumeration. This is where you use tools like Nmap to actively probe the target. You scan for open ports, which are like open doors into the system. For each open door, you try to identify the service running on it and its version number. An old, unpatched version of a web server or a database is a prime target. You're looking for a loose thread you can pull on. This stage is about meticulously mapping out the target's digital footprint and identifying potential points of entry based on outdated software or misconfigurations that you can investigate further. Now you enter the vulnerability analysis phase. You take the information you've gathered and start connecting the dots. You might have found a web server running an old version of Apache. Your next step is to research that specific version. Are there any known public exploits for it? You can search databases like the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, or CVE, list. This is where your research skills come into play. You're not just blindly attacking, you're forming a hypothesis. I believe this system is vulnerable to this specific exploit because it is running this specific version of software. The final step in this process is exploitation. This is where you attempt to actively leverage the vulnerability you've identified to gain some level of access. This could involve using a framework like Metasploit, which is a library of pre-packaged exploits, or it could mean crafting your own custom script. The goal might be to get a remote shell, giving you command line access to the target machine. This is the moment of truth where your hypothesis is tested. Success means you've found a genuine, exploitable flaw. This is the core loop of hacking. Gather information, identify a weakness, and then test that weakness. So finding a vulnerability is only half the story. A true security professional or a white hat doesn't just break things, they actually help fix them. The process of fixing a vulnerability is called patching or remediation. Once a flaw is confirmed, the main goal is to close that security hole so that, malicious actors can't use it. This is honestly the constructive side of hacking, the part that really makes the digital world safer for everyone. The first step is always clear and detailed reporting. You need to explain the vulnerability, how you found it, what it can do, and also provide a step-by-step guide on how to reproduce it. Understanding how to fix vulnerabilities is just as important as knowing how to find them. For example, if you discover a system is vulnerable to SQL injection, the fix isn't just to block the specific attack you used. The real fix is for developers to rewrite their code using parameterized queries or prepared statements, which prevents the entire class of vulnerability. And if you find an outdated piece of software, the fix is to apply the latest security patches from the vendor. A good hacker understands the root cause of the problem and can recommend the correct long-term solution, not just a temporary band-aid. This process really highlights the symbiotic relationship between offensive and defensive security. To be a good defender, you have to understand the attacker's mindset. You need to know what they're looking for and what techniques they use. Likewise, to be a good attacker, you must understand how systems are defended. What do firewalls look for? How does an intrusion detection system, or IDS, work? By learning how to fix the holes you find, you actually gain a much deeper and more complete understanding of security. It forces you to think about the entire security posture of an organization, not just a single isolated flaw. The ultimate goal of ethical hacking, or penetration testing, is to provide a roadmap for improvement. A penetration test report shouldn't just be a list of broken things. It should be a valuable business document that prioritizes risks. It should explain which vulnerabilities are the most critical and need to be fixed right away, and which are lower risk. This gives the organization the information they need to make smart decisions about where to invest their time and resources to get the biggest security improvements. In this role, the hacker acts as a trusted advisor, a guide helping the organization navigate the dangerous digital landscape. Once you've mastered the basics of network and system hacking, a whole new world of specialization opens up. One of the most common and in-demand areas is web application security. Modern life runs on web apps, from your online banking to your social media, and honestly, they are complex beasts. Advanced web hacking goes way beyond simple SQL injection. It involves diving into things like cross-site scripting, or XSS, to manipulate other users' browsers, breaking authentication mechanisms to impersonate people, and finding those really subtle logic flaws in the application's business processes that developers never even considered. It's a vast and constantly evolving field. Another advanced frontier is exploit development. This is where you move from using exploits that other people have written to actually creating your own. This requires a deep understanding of low-level concepts like assembly language, memory management, and processor architecture. You learn about buffer overflows, heap spraying, and return-oriented programming, often called ROP. It's the art of taking a simple bug, just a small programming error, and carefully crafting an input that turns that bug into a gateway for executing your own code on a target machine. It's honestly one of the most challenging, but also most rewarding skills in the hacking world. As you become more advanced, you'll also start developing your own tools. While tools like Nmap and Metasploit are incredible, sometimes you face a unique situation they just weren't designed for. This is where your programming skills truly shine. You might write a custom script to automate a complex multi-step attack, or you might develop a tool to pass a proprietary network protocol that Wireshark doesn't understand. Building your own tools not only makes you more effective, but it also really deepens your understanding of the underlying principles. It's the difference between being a mechanic who can use a wrench and being an engineer who can design and build a new one. Finally, there are highly specialized fields like mobile application hacking, cloud security, and even hardware hacking. Mobile hacking involves reverse engineering Android and iOS apps to find vulnerabilities. Cloud security focuses on the unique challenges of securing massive distributed infrastructure on platforms like AWS or Azure. Hardware hacking involves physically taking devices apart, analyzing the chips on the circuit board, and extracting data directly from the electronics. Each of these fields requires a unique set of skills and tools, proving that the journey of learning in the world of hacking truly never ends. There is always a new system to understand and a new puzzle to solve. The term hacker is often associated with crime, but honestly, many of the most brilliant minds in the field have used their skills for good. Take Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek, for example. They're famous for their research into automotive security. Back in 2015, they demonstrated that they could remotely hack into a Jeep Cherokee while it was driving down the highway. They could control the radio, the wipers, and even disable the transmission. This wasn't done for malicious purposes. It was a dramatic demonstration to the world and to car manufacturers that modern vehicles were vulnerable. Their work forced the auto industry to take cybersecurity seriously, leading to a recall of 1.4 million vehicles and fundamentally changing how cars are designed. Another hugely influential figure is Barnaby Jack. He was a New Zealand hacker and security researcher known for his incredible demonstrations. At the Black Hat Security Conference, he showed how he could hack into ATMs and make them spit out cash on command, a technique he called jackpotting. Later, he turned his attention to medical devices. He discovered a vulnerability that would allow him to remotely hack into an insulin pump, potentially delivering a lethal dose. His research exposed life-threatening flaws in devices that people depended on, forcing manufacturers to implement much-needed security measures and likely saving lives in the process. The world of web security owes a great deal to a hacker who goes by the name The Gruk. He's a veteran security researcher who has contributed immensely to the community's understanding of operational security, or OPSEC. OPSEC is the art of protecting yourself and your data, not just through technical means, but through processes and habits. The Gruk's writings and talks have taught a generation of security professionals how to think critically about privacy, anonymity, and how to operate safely in hostile digital environments. His work has been crucial for journalists, activists, and security researchers working in dangerous situations around the world. These individuals, and many others like them, really embody the true spirit of white hat hacking. They're driven by curiosity and a desire to make things better. They see a potential weakness, not as an opportunity for personal gain, but as a problem to be solved for the benefit of everyone. They use their extraordinary skills to shine a light into the dark corners of technology, forcing us all to confront uncomfortable truths and build a more secure future. Their legacies prove that hacking can be a powerful force for positive change, and that the same skills used to break systems can be the very skills needed to protect them. As you learn to hack, you're acquiring a powerful and potentially dangerous skill set. It's absolutely critical that you understand the ethical and legal lines you must not cross. The difference between a well-paid security researcher and a convicted felon is often just one thing: permission. Ethical hacking, or penetration testing, is always done with the explicit, written consent of the system owner. You must have a clearly defined scope of what you are allowed to test and what you are not allowed to test. Hacking into any system without permission, no matter how good your intentions are, is illegal in most countries. Your actions have real-world consequences. Crashing a server isn't just an interesting technical feat. It could mean a business loses thousands of dollars in sales, or a hospital loses access to critical patient records. Accessing private data isn't just about satisfying your curiosity. It's a profound violation of someone's privacy. You have a responsibility to handle any sensitive data you might encounter with the utmost care and to report it responsibly through the proper channels. Never access more information than is strictly necessary to demonstrate the vulnerability. Your goal is to simulate an attack, not to actually be an attacker. This is where the concept of responsible disclosure comes in. When you find a vulnerability in a system or a piece of software, you don't just post it online for the world to see. That would give criminals a roadmap to exploit it before the developers have a chance to fix it. Instead, you privately contact the vendor or the owner of the system. You provide them with all the details of the vulnerability and give them a reasonable amount of time to create and release a patch. Only after the patch is available, or after a reasonable time has passed, would you consider making the details public. This approach protects users while still holding vendors accountable. Ultimately, your reputation is your most valuable asset in this field. The security community is small, and word travels fast. If you act recklessly or unethically, you'll quickly find yourself ostracized. If you act with integrity, professionalism, and a genuine desire to help, you'll build a reputation as a trusted expert. Always err on the side of caution. If you're unsure whether you're allowed to do something, don't do it. Set up your own virtual lab environment to practice your skills safely and legally. The power you're gaining demands an equal measure of wisdom and self-control. You have now seen the path laid out before you, from the first steps of understanding a computer to the advanced frontiers of exploit development. This journey is not a short one, and there is no final destination where you can say, "I know everything." The world of technology is in a constant state of flux. Every day, new software is written, new networks are built, and new devices are connected to the internet. With every new line of code comes the potential for a new vulnerability. This means that your education as a hacker is never truly complete. It's really a commitment to lifelong learning. The key to success is to stay curious and persistent. You will encounter problems that seem impossible to solve. You'll spend days chasing a bug that turns out to be a simple mistake. This is just part of the process. Every challenge you overcome, every system you finally understand, makes you a better hacker. Celebrate the small victories. Read security blogs, follow researchers on social media, attend conferences if you can. Immerse yourself in the culture of learning and sharing that defines the best parts of the security community. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and when you learn something new, share your knowledge with others. Remember the ethical compass that we discussed. The skills you are building can be used for great good or for great harm. The choice is yours, and you make it with every action you take. Choose to be a builder, not a destroyer. Use your knowledge to find weaknesses so they can be fixed. Help protect people's data and privacy. Contribute to open source security tools. Be the person who finds the hole in the ship's hull and helps patch it before the ship sinks, not the one who drills it in the first place. A career as an ethical hacker is not only intellectually stimulating, but also incredibly rewarding. Your journey from noob to pro starts today with the decision to learn. It begins with the first command you type into a Linux terminal, the first line of Python you write, the first network packet you analyze. Don't be intimidated by how much there is to know. Every expert was once a beginner. Take it one step at a time, build your foundation, and never lose that spark of curiosity that made you want to look behind the curtain in the first place. The digital world is a vast and complex puzzle. Go explore it, understand it, and use your skills to make it a better, safer place. The game is on.